Welcome to the other side of Northern California with your host, ASOS. My mission is to talk about history, which I love, but also take you to the other side of various locations and give you nice ideas for a road trip, a vacation, or if you're like me, that you're traveling and you're like, I want to know what is out there whenever I'm going to go to a new state, city, town, and I want to know all the paranormal hot spots, all the mystery spots, all of the places that have a lot of folklore or that the local people would consider very unusual. I will not lie to you, I recorded this video 3 times. The first time my dogs were being obnoxious, which they are being right now. The second time, the volume was just awful. Like, I was listening back to the recording because I was like, oh, I'll like start editing it this week. And then I'll have it out by Sunday, and it'll be perfect. But when I was like listening to my voice, I was like, you can't hear me. It's not cohesive. The lighting was like a huge issue, and I was just like, well, okay, that's how we're ending 2022. Now we're in 23, and I'm like, we're gonna start the new year. Day 1, let's pray that I can record this, no problems, no nothing. My dogs are starting beef at the current moment, which is stressing me out. I don't know if you can see how shiny my forehead is. I think that's from the stress of trying to raise 2 beautiful, wonderful dogs. If you know nothing about me, my dogs, I consider them my children. Like, I don't have children. I do not want children. My dogs are my everything. So to me, I'm raising them, and it's a challenge because I have a 1-year-old, and it's not easy because I've had the other one for so long that when you get a new dog, you're like, wait a minute, was it this hard? And you're like questioning your life. So that's where we're at. So let's go to Northern California. So before we go fully dive into this, let me add one more thing. So I found out on TikTok that you're not supposed to say San Fran, and apparently people from San Francisco don't like when people say that, but there was really no explanation, so I really want people to maybe express more why you don't like San Fran, because to me, whenever I say San Fran, I just think like, oh, it's a cool, shorter abbreviation, because San Francisco is such a long word, and for some of us, it's not very easy to just completely say this like long drawn out name. I mean, people with like 6, 7, 8 letter names, they always have a nickname because it's just too much. So I don't know, somebody tell me why we're not allowed to say San Fran, please. Somebody from San Francisco, explain why, for the love of Jesus, why. So let's go to our first location, which is in Point Spur. Well, sorry, it's in Big Spur, and it's called Point Sur Lighthouse. So it sits on a volcanic rock along the Pacific Ocean. So if you don't know anything about the Pacific Ocean, there is the Ring of Fire, which I love. The Ring of Fire. If you don't know Disney and you don't know the Ring of Fire, I'm gonna pray for you, okay? But the Ring of Fire, it was first lit in 1889. It still operates today with various light keepers and their families living on site until 1974. So while yes, it's still in operation, nobody really lives there, which I think is a good thing, because if you watch scary movies about lighthouses, you know how that can go down. Despite the lighthouse powerful beams, there have been a share of shipwrecks. There are those who believe that those who died from the shipwrecks haunt the lighthouse and the surrounding areas. I do want to know what toll that would have on the lighthouse keepers and the families, because they were there every day. And when a shipwreck happened, did they all just witness it and were haunted by the victims and by what happened? Is a tall man seen in a dark blue 19th century garb lingering around the tower. There has been voices captured of a woman whispering, which some believe to be a Danish immigrant by the name of Catherine Ingro. I'm going to pray that I said that name right, because it's like Ingersoll? Oh, never mind, I said roll. I think it's soul. I'm not good with names. Those who take care of the buildings today express that all the ghosts there are friendly as long as you respect them. You can take tours through the State Historical Park today. That's my biggest thing, is when you go into a location that has activity, whether you believe it or whether you don't, I feel like you should always be respectful. You should let the spirits know why you're there. You should always say hello, goodbye, because at the end of the day, it's like a respect thing. Like, didn't your mama ever teach you, like, you earn respect? You get respect back, and I feel like that's how spirits are. So, now we're gonna move along the way to San Jose, California. So I feel like this is a very well-known place. However, at the same time with this location, it baffles me because I never heard about it until like a few years ago. And ever since then, it's been something that I want to go see for my personal self. So, yes, is this something that, like, everybody now is, like, popping up and, like, doing videos there and going and paranormal investigating this location? Yes. But I still feel like it's something that you personally should go experience for yourself, just because, like, it's not even a paranormal location, I feel like. I just feel like this is a mystery, and it's weird and strange and unusual, and I love all those things. I'm still dying. Oh, by the way, I've been sick for 3 weeks. I forgot to mention that. Like, sidebar, I've been sick for like 3 weeks as well, so it's not been good. Like, I have like I keep testing negative for COVID, but yet I have like sinuses so bad that my body will start shaking from like how congested and in pain I am from like right here. I did get a sore throat a few days ago, so like the congestion's been like coming and going for like 2 days, and then finally this week I had full sore throat, and I kept taking COVID tests and I kept coming back negative. So I don't know why I've been sick lately. So if I sound funny, I have been dying for the past 3 weeks, but I wasn't sick on New Year's, so it was a good day. That's all I gotta say. Okay, so anyways, back to the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, California, which, by the way, you should just visit San Jose, California for, like, just the place and do the paranormal stuff at night, you know? So the house was owned and built by Sarah Winchester, the heir to the Winchester repeating arms fortune. Many believe that the guns left a stain on the family and haunted them, knowing that people died at the hands of the guns. This was known as the gun that won the West, so you can think about how that deeply affected a lot of people and a lot of people's lives. The construction that seemed to never end was from 1886 to 1922, transforming the 8-room farmhouse into a mansion that was at 24,000 square feet. It has 10,000 windows, 2,000 doors, 160 rooms, 52 skylights, 47 stairways, 47 fireplaces, 17 chimneys, 13 bathrooms, 6 kitchens. In 1923, it was estimated at $5 million today, and $5 million then in 1923, and today it's worth over $71 million. First of all, that's a steep price, so it's worth $71 million. Holy moly, okay? Second of all, who needs 17 chimneys, okay? Why? Who needs 6 kitchens? Why? Who needs 47 fireplaces? Like, this is extra, like, on a whole other level, okay? Like, this, extra. Also, do you hear my boyfriend laughing? It remains a mystery, as it did before she passed away, because of all the rumors as to why she built this as a wealthy woman. Some believe that she was instructed by a psychic to do so because she was haunted by the ghost who fell by the gun that won the West. The truth is that Sarah Winchester was an independent, driven, and courageous woman who was known for her curiosity and innovations that were ahead of their time. There are reports of paranormal activity inside the home, creepy place. Apparently, if you go on tours today, you are not allowed to venture in the home by yourself. So I'm wondering how people kind of are like doing investigations there, because They don't want you to get lost because this is such a labyrinth place. Like, there's doors that lead into nowhere. There's staircases that go nowhere. There's windows that lead to absolutely nothing. There's just windows there. And some of these rooms just don't make any sense. And it's kind of a maze in there. So a lot of the owners and the people that do tours there, they're very keen on only they can guide people through there, because even they find themselves lost and confused inside of the home, because they're like, well, I didn't know that this door was here, because they're still finding things inside the home. They're still finding weird rooms that lead nowhere. They're still finding crazy things inside the home to this very day. I mean, nobody really understood her vision or her plan, and I don't even think there's like a blueprint on that house. And if there was one, good luck. So now we are going to go into San Francisco. So San Francisco, I feel like, is a crazy place for its history, for its serial killers, for everything about San Francisco. So let's talk about San Francisco. So I am going to start with the Haskell House. So this is a crazy, crazy story, and I think that it's insane. So the famous senator, U.S. Senator David Brookrick, lived in the house during the 1850s. On September 12, 1859, Senator Brookrick and State Supreme Court Justice David Terry engaged in a duel of their political difference. Now, the sheriff tried to stop the duel, with over 80 people watching, but they ended up still going through with the duel. They found out that there's nothing illegal about this duel, so the sheriff couldn't do anything about it. And Brookrick ended up dying from the gunshot wound. The fate of Justice Terry saw him die just 3 days later after trying to recover from the gunshot wound he had inside the home. Past tenants expressed an invisible presence in the kitchen watching them. One painter claimed to have been pushed out of a window by something invisible. So think about this. They dueled. They literally dueled with a gun. And they played Russian roulette, and it didn't end good for either one of them, which I think is insane. So it's a good place to check out. So next, we're going to talk about Chinatown. Now, I absolutely want to visit Chinatown in San Francisco for its history, for its culture, for everything that it represents. I also want to express that there's a lot of places in Chinatown that carry a heavy, heavy history, a dark past, that have a lot of paranormal activity in it, but I'm only going to focus on one place, because if I try to do all of them, I feel like I would be like here all day talking about Chinatown, because I can and I would, but for the sake of people's sanity, I'll just do one. So this one that I'm going to do is a very wonderful location, and it's just tragic that it has paranormal activity and that it has a tragedy attached to it, because it had such pure intentions. But let me tell you what Chinatown is, for those who don't know what Chinatown is, that don't understand the history. So Chinatown was the name given to the neighborhood in 1853 by the press. Chinese people were dealing with the defeat of the First Opium War in the mid-1840s, with famine, peasant uprising, and many seeking fortune in America. The Chinese were met with ambiguous feelings by Californians who were facing a weak economy and saw the Chinese labor force as a threat to the mainstream society. Racial discrimination and repressive legislation forced Chinese immigrants from the gold mines into neighborhood sanctuaries. Chinatown often offers a look into a group that flourished despite hostilities. So the Chinatown basically gave Chinese immigrants a place to feel like they actually belonged when there was so much hostility against them. And a lot of people were like, we don't want them here, our economy's going to crap, and then here's these people coming trying to take jobs and everything like that. And they mainly worked in mines. They mainly helped build the railroads that we see today. And even the massive transcontinental railroad that we have, they helped to establish and build that one too. So very sad that they had to go into these places and that they were called that, but it does really preserve their culture in a very beautiful way that I think that we should appreciate today. So we're going to talk about the Don Linda Cameron House, Chinatown, San Francisco. Originally was the Presbyterian Mission House. It was committed to rescuing women and girls coming into the United States from China to avoid prostitution, brutal existence, and dying within 5 years. The house helped over 3,000 Chinese girls through the help of Cameron. However, in 1906, the earthquake destroyed the house. It was rebuilt with secret passageways and sealed doors in hopes to help girls hide from brothel owners, slave traders, and the local police. Unfortunately, when a fire broke out, an unknown number of Chinese girls and women hiding in the basement died from being unable to escape. Visitors have claimed to see white figures in the background of photos and feeling spirits of those who died. Today, the house serves for low-income immigrants, youthful families, and the basement has thus been sealed off. So they changed the name because this woman did such beautiful work for these Chinese women and girls who were trying to escape and were trying to, actually have a good life for themselves here in the United States. So that's why I chose that place, because I thought that it was an amazing commitment, mission, and everything for women, all about women empowerment and about us actually having good opportunities here in the U.S. Still dying. I'm really gonna be mad if it's like COVID. I just was one of those people that kept testing negative, because good Lord. So next we're going to go to my all-time, I want to go to this place, okay? Like, I get it. This place is basic. I respect that. I feel like I can't say this name without people going, yes. But, okay, so I wanted to do it for 2 reasons, okay? First reason, it's on my bucket list. It's a place that I've always been obsessed with. It's a place that I am just like, yes to this place. I mean, it is massive, creepy. It's just everything. But I also wanted to talk about it because I heard somebody arguing that this place is not haunted. It has no paranormal connections, no mysteries, no weird feelings, no nothing. It's just a normal building. That's what somebody said. And I want to counter argue that because you need to understand the history of this place, because this history goes beyond what people know, because I feel like that's just the surface of the iceberg, is what people know about this location, and then you have everything underneath it. People don't even know about this location. So to me, I think it does have some type of activity, some type of residual, some type of feeling when people look at it, because, again, of all this past, present, future, everything. So Alcatraz, San Francisco. First of all, how do you not get creeped out when you have to go on a boat out to this location, okay? And it's foggy out there. The weather sometimes can give a creepy vibe off, and you gotta travel on a boat there, travel on a boat back. It's like so secluded and so freaking creepy. I mean, good Lord, how do you not say that this place is crazy? So, what makes it so haunted, in my view, in my personal opinion? So the name came from Spanish explorers, and it wasn't until 1850s that during the gold rush, the island was ordered to be used as a military reservation in order to protect the booming growth of San Francisco. The plan was to build a fortress with over 100 cannons and an operational lighthouse. By the late 1850s, the first military prisoners were being kept on the island, and despite the protection needed, it diminished over time and served instead as a prison for over 100 years. It was a military prison from 1850 to 1933, and then a federal government maximum security prison after that. There were so many known criminals like Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, Alvin Caprese, and Arthur Doc Baker. That was a tongue-tied twister. So Alcatraz's new purpose was to keep prisoners who did not conform to the rules and regulations and were considered violent, dangerous, or an escape risk. Thus, some would argue that the living conditions at Alcatraz were better than the descriptions from books and movies. The American Devil Island prisoners had 4 rights: food, clothes, shelter, and medical care. Everything else was earned and a privilege. Alcatraz was no stranger to prison escape attempts, with over 14 tries, 2 drowned, and 2 were executed in the chambers. Alcatraz did close its door in 1963 due to expensive prices to keep the building operating, between $3 to $5 million. That did not include daily costs. But many believe it shut down due to the infamous prison escape attempt by 3 prisoners who were never found. I absolutely love watching documentaries on this and them trying to figure out why, what happened, really diving into like the full scope of it. I really like those documentaries. I think they're really interesting and really fascinating. Once the prison, the Lord have mercy. Once the prison closed, it was left abandoned with ideas for the island such as a monument, West Coast version of the Statue of Liberty. Now, Native Americans have been lobbying since 1960 for the island to be redeveloped as an indigenous culture center and school. The Sioux believed that under the 1868 treaty that allowed them to appropriate surplus federal land, gave them the right to reclaim the rock. Now, efforts did fail, but it became a rally cry for natives. The natives did really value this rock and this piece of land. If you know nothing about California's indigenous tribes, a lot of them did live out on the bay and those little tiny islands out there, and they benefited greatly from them. By 1972, it was part of the National Park Service and a popular site, seeing millions each year. Now that you know the history and the different shifts of energy, you can dive into the paranormal and unknown occurrences that happen at Alcatraz that have been recorded at Alcatraz. Now to keep in mind that most people only know what happened daily in the federal prisons day to day, but not before that, when it was like a military base or like when the indigenous people would go to the rock and everything like that. So you got to remember that wide variety of history with this location. Now, the fog throughout the island hides shadows that many believe to hear, see, and smell experiences such as sobbing, moaning, horrible smells, and what has been named the Thing with glowing eyes. Warden Johnston experienced while taking a group of tours was the sound of a woman sobbing within the dungeons. What stopped? An icy wind blew through the group. Since 1940, apparitions have been seen at the now shell of the warden's house. In the lighthouse, it's claimed that on foggy nights, an eerie whistle sounding green light will make its way around, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. During operation, it was reported that phantom cannons and gunshots accompanied by screams. The guards would investigate only to find nothing. Guards would often smell smoke coming from an abandoned laundry room, only to find the room free of smoke and fire. The D block is believed to be the most haunted block in the prison that was constructed after the 1939 escape attempt by Arthur Dark Baker, who died. Within D block are what is known as the Hole. A former guard working in D block claimed to see a man dressed in 1800s prison attire walking along the strip of the cells. Also within D block is a story of an inmate who died. Some say that they were strangled by a guard who had enough of their screams, and others claim that he was killed by a restless and evil spirit. Today, D block is known for intense feelings, cold spots, and a feeling of emotional charge. Whether you believe Alcatraz is haunted or not, you cannot deny its history and its legend. Now, we are going to move to Ion, California. Next stop. Done with Alcatraz, done with San Francisco. So, in Ion, California, there's something called Preston Castle. It was constructed in 1892 as a reform school for boys and remained open until 1960. The state planned to demolish the building in 1960, but was saved by a woman. However, the state would do nothing to keep it standing. The building remained vacant until 2001, with the Preston Castle Foundation to preserve the historical site. Now, this was known as the best reform school, but it was considered very brutal for those who lived within the walls of there. It's a sense of depression in the atmosphere. There are stories of abuse and neglect, with wards dying of tuberculosis at the hands of the guards. There is a cemetery on the ground with over 23 graves. The head housekeeper, Anna Corbin, was beaten to death on February 23, 1950. While her murder remains unsolved, it was believed to be wardens and staffs who killed her. Many believe that her spirit resides in the castle today. So now we are going to go to Sacramento, but more importantly, old Sacramento. Good Lord. So we're going to talk about the underground tunnels. Now, Sacramento was first settled with being subject to flooding due to rivers and other factors threatening the economic and political success of the city, along with the livelihood of its residents. City leaders got the idea to raise the street level 20 feet above the floodplains, leaving behind a network of tunnels below the streets and sidewalks. The tunnels have become folklore topic for the city, with stories of being turned into opium dens, smuggling goods, and Chinese slaves. Business owners did have access to the tunnels, and reports of disturbances such as strange noises. One known ghost is a woman dressed in Victorian clothing. The next is the ghost of a man who was murdered in the basement. Now, you may tour the tunnels, but it's adults only, and it's at night. So we're going to go to Eureka, California. Eureka. So it has a reputation for being the most haunted city town in California due to its historical buildings and its past as a bustling port with sailors, lumberjacks, and gold miners. Many also believe that Native American spirits linger after the 1860 massacre of the Wichita people. There is a haunted walk tour through the old town. Probably can bring your children. So we're going to talk about Fort Hamblot State Historical Park in Eureka, California. It was established in 1853 as a military fort overlooking the Hamblot Bay. The fort was a remote military post that assisted conflict resolution between Native Americans, gold seekers, and settlers. It was home to Ulysses S. Grant, who did not appreciate the isolation. The fort was left abandoned in 1870, falling into decay, with only the hospital remaining. Today, the Fort Museum dedicates itself to indigenous tribes in the area, such as the Wichita, the Hopa, and the Yuroko of the region. Ghost stories include past commanders who died from malaria who has been seen looking out of the hospital wings. Other stories are hearing footsteps or seeing figures throughout. So we got through that whole thing. I am praying that when I look back at the recording that this was well and this was successful. We're gonna cross our fingers. So thank you so much for joining me on the other side of Northern California. I was your host, ASOS, and I really hope that you had a good one, that you visit California, because there's just so much to do in California, so much crazy places to visit, so many haunted locations to visit. Just remember, though, if you're going to go to some of these locations, be respectful, check to see if you can bring your children or not, and definitely go on a haunted tour. Thank you so much, and I hope you'll have a good one, and Happy New Year.